I could never have imagined being sort of that last person. We were glued together, those three kids.
It's been decades since the Bee Gees ruled the charts. But even now, Barry Gibb can't listen to one song without breaking. He stood alone on stages, under the same lights he once shared with his brothers. He smiled through tributes, waved through standing ovations, and thanked millions of fans around the world. But when the lights fade and the crowd is gone, there's one song he can't play. One melody that carries too much of the past. It wasn't their biggest hit. It wasn't even his voice leading the chorus. But every time that song begins, something inside Barry collapses. Because buried within its lyrics lies a truth too heavy for fame to carry. A message that was never meant for the world, yet somehow, everyone who's ever lost someone they couldn't save can feel it. And the reason this song still brings Barry Gibb to tears has nothing to do with the records, the awards, or the legacy. It's because of the voices he still hears, and the ones that are gone forever. So what is the song that still breaks the last Bee Gees standing? And why did it take losing everything before he could finally understand what it truly meant? You're about to find out. For most of the world, Barry Gibb is a legend. The voice, the falsetto, the last surviving member of a dynasty that changed music forever. But for Barry, being the last Bee Gee has never felt like an honor. It's felt like a life sentence. One by one, his brothers were taken from him. Andy, the youngest, gone far too soon at just 30. Maurice, the heartbeat of the band, passed in 2003. Then Robin, the twin soul Barry had sung with since childhood, in 2012. And with every goodbye, Barry wasn't just losing family, he was losing pieces of himself. Standing in a world that still cheered his name, he became a man surrounded by applause, yet utterly alone. Fans would tell him how the music changed their lives, how the Bee Gees shaped generations. But few ever asked what it cost to create it. Behind the fame and the falsettos were brothers, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, bound by blood, love, rivalry, and something deeper than any hit song. Because before the legacy, they were simply a family. And when you're the last one left, the legacy becomes a weight, heavy with memories, regrets, and the echoes of voices that no longer answer back. Maybe that's why there's one song Barry Gibb can't let go of. A song that holds every loss, every moment he wishes he could relive, every word left unsaid. But what is that song? And why did it strike him harder after the music stopped and his brothers were gone? In 1997, the Bee Gees were asked to write one song, not for themselves, but for someone else. And they had no idea it would come to mean everything. That someone was Celine Dion. By then, the Gibb brothers had nothing left to prove. They had conquered every corner of music, pop, disco, ballads, rebuilt their legacy after the backlash, and climbed back to the top of the charts. They weren't chasing fame anymore. But when the call came for a heartfelt ballad that would capture Celine's voice and spirit, Barry, Robin, and Maurice sat down together, just like they always did, and wrote Immortality. And I will follow on the road that I shall have. It wasn't meant to be heartbreaking. Not at first. It was about strength, about legacy, about the hope that a part of us lives on through those we leave behind, about eternity. The brothers even recorded the background vocals themselves, layering their harmonies beneath Celine's soaring lead. At the time, it was just another collaboration, another glimpse of the Bee Gees' quiet genius at work behind the scenes. But Barry couldn't have known what this song would one day mean. Because just a few years later, those same harmonies would become the only way he could hear his brothers again. When Maurice passed unexpectedly in 2003, Immortality transformed. When Robin followed in 2012, it stopped being just a song, it became a memory, a message, a farewell too painful to speak aloud. And now, when Barry sings those lines alone, we don't say goodbye. We don't say goodbye. It's no longer a performance, or a hit record. It's a haunting echo of everything he's lost. But was this the song that still brings Barry Gibb to tears? Or was there another? One lyric, one memory, one moment so powerful even Barry couldn't hold back. We'll get there soon. But first, we need to go back, to the brother who left too soon. before the fame took over, before the headlines and heartbreak. Andy Gibb, the youngest, the dreamer, with a voice that could melt a radio dial, and a story that changed everything. He was never officially part of the Bee Gees lineup, but make no mistake, Andy Gibb was one of them. Barry helped launch his solo career, writing and producing some of Andy's biggest hits, including Shadow Dancing, which ruled the charts for 7 straight weeks in 1978. But Andy's rise was as dazzling as it was dangerous. By 21, he had back-to-back #1s, magazine covers everywhere, and the impossible pressure of living up to a name that already defined an era. Behind the spotlight, Barry watched his youngest brother slowly fall apart. The smile never left Andy's face, but beneath it, he was crumbling, battling addiction, loneliness, and a deep fear that he'd never truly earned the love his fans gave him. Barry tried to reach him, to help him, but fame has a way of twisting family ties. Was Barry his mentor, his manager, or just his brother trying to hold on? By the late 80s, a quiet distance had formed, not anger, not betrayal, just the silence of two people who didn't know how to say, "I miss you." Then, in 1988, just 5 days after turning 30, Andy was gone. Barry was devastated. He spoke at the funeral, honored Andy in interviews, and carried his memory wherever he went. But something inside him changed. He stopped performing Andy's songs. He turned down interviews that dug too deep. And those closest to him said there was one track, one song forever tied to Andy's voice, that Barry couldn't bear to listen to, even decades later. So, was this the song that still makes Barry Gibb cry? We're getting closer. Because after Andy's death, Barry carried a pain few could see, and soon, one song would become the mirror for it all. When the Bee Gees returned to the stage in the late 90s, the harmonies were still perfect, the crowd still thundered, but for Barry, the music would never sound the same again. But something was missing. Andy had been gone for 10 years. And even though he'd never officially been a Bee Gee, his absence lingered, a quiet, permanent void between the spotlight and the shadows. Barry rarely spoke about it. He didn't talk much about Andy's final years, not on stage, not in interviews. But if you watched closely, you could see it, in the way his eyes drifted toward the wings when an old song began, in the slight break in his voice mid-sentence, in the long pauses whenever someone mentioned family. Then, in 2003, the unthinkable happened again. Maurice, Barry's twin in spirit, the heartbeat of the Bee Gees, died unexpectedly during surgery. It was like losing the engine that kept the music alive. Maurice wasn't just a brother. He was the rhythm, the glue, the balance that held everything together. And suddenly, Barry wasn't just the eldest. He was the bridge between what once was and what could never be again. He and Robin tried to go on. They still sang, still smiled, still honored the legacy. But something in the harmony was gone, that invisible connection only brothers could share. And when Robin passed in 2012 after a long battle with cancer, that final thread snapped. Barry stood alone at memorial concerts and tribute shows, beneath the same bright lights that once shone on all three of them, now casting a single shadow. In an interview, Barry once confessed, "I hear their voices when I sing. I still wait for their harmonies." It was no longer just music, it was a haunting. And through it all, one song began to take on a meaning far deeper than before. A song they had written together. A song about life beyond loss. About love that never dies. Immortality. When Barry, Robin, and Maurice wrote Immortality for Celine Dion back in 1997, it was meant to be timeless, not tragic. They wove their trademark harmonies behind her soaring vocals, crafting a song about memory, legacy, and the idea that even when we're gone, a part of us remains. Back then, it was just another masterpiece, a gift to another legend. But years later, Immortality became something else entirely. It became Barry's truth. But in the years that followed, Immortality began to take on a life, and a loss, of its own. As Barry watched his brothers slip away one by one, the lyrics he once wrote so easily started to cut deeper. So this is who I am, and this is all I know. It wasn't just a line anymore. It was a confession, a truth sung through grief. When Barry began performing Immortality alone, with only the recorded voices of his brothers echoing behind him. Frozen in time, the emotion became almost unbearable. Fans who witnessed those shows said you could feel it in the air. The lights dimmed. Barry would close his eyes. And for a few fleeting moments, it didn't feel like a concert at all. It felt like a reunion. We don't say goodbye. It was no longer a lyric, it was a promise. A vow to never let go. In interviews, Barry has admitted that Immortality still brings him to tears. Not because of fame or nostalgia, but because when he sings it, he can hear them, Maurice and Robin, singing with him once more. That's the part that breaks him. Not the silence after the applause, but the sound of voices he can never reach again, echoing through time as if they never left. Still, is this truly the one song that brings Barry Gibb to tears every time? Maybe. But there's another. One even older. One that reaches further back, beyond fame, beyond loss, to the very beginning. When Barry hears it, he doesn't just hear his brothers. He hears his own childhood. The first flicker of sorrow before the world ever knew his name. In 1968, Robin Gibb stepped to the microphone with a haunting melody and a voice soaked in melancholy. The result was one of the Bee Gees' earliest and most timeless songs, I Started a Joke. At the time, no one really understood what it meant. Some said it was spiritual. Others called it existential. Robin never explained. He didn't have to. The song carried its own kind of truth, a sadness so deep it wrapped itself around your heart and refused to let go. I Started a Joke, which started the whole world crying. Started the whole world crying. When Robin passed in 2012, Barry began performing the song alone, often under soft blue lights, his voice trembling through every line. The audience would fall silent as he let the lyrics drift into the air like whispers. And that's when something changed. Fans began to notice. Barry rarely made it through the song without faltering. His voice would catch. His eyes would glisten. Sometimes, his hands would shake as he strummed the guitar. But I couldn't see that the joke was on me. In that moment, Barry wasn't just performing Robin's song. He was living it. Because if the Bee Gees were ever mocked for their falsetto, their disco shine, or their glittering suits, Barry now understood what the critics never did. It was never about style. It was about brotherhood. Every harmony was a bond, every lyric a memory. And now, when Barry performs I Started a Joke, it's no longer a song. It's a confession, a quiet reckoning with everything left unsaid. So, is this the song that still brings Barry Gibb to tears? Some say yes. But there's one more. Perhaps the oldest wound of all, a song not just about grief, but born from it. Long before he lost Robin or Maurice, Barry was already carrying the ache of losing Andy. Andy Gibb was just 30 when his heart gave out. To the world, it was another tragic headline, a pop star gone too soon. But to Barry, it was something far deeper. A failure he could never undo. Andy had always been fragile. His fame burned bright, but too fast. By the end, his voice was worn, his spirit tired. He checked into rehab, made promises to heal, even tried to start again. But time ran out. Just months before he died, Andy recorded a few raw demos, stripped down, unpolished, painfully honest. One of them, according to biographers and studio insiders, was never released. It was handed directly to Barry. No title ever confirmed. No lyrics ever published. The tape, it said, still remains in Barry's possession to this day. There's no official word from him confirming it exists, but those close to the family have hinted otherwise, that Barry has kept it private for more than 30 years. Why? Because, as one family friend once said, it wasn't just a song. It was Andy's last message. Whether that recording is real or just rumor, one thing is certain. Barry has never truly let go of Andy. In a 2012 interview, shortly after Robin's passing, Barry admitted softly, "Losing Andy was the hardest, because it was preventable. I always wonder if I could have done more." Those were Barry Gibb's words, quiet, almost whispered, but heavy with everything left unsaid. And when he performs certain songs, like To Love Somebody, the ones the Bee Gees once sang together, fans say you can see it, that moment when Andy crosses his mind. A flicker in his eyes. A brief pause. A single line sung not to the crowd, but to the ghosts of the past. And if somewhere out there exists a song with Andy's final voice, maybe Barry keeps it hidden, not out of pride or secrecy, but because some goodbyes aren't meant for the world to hear. Some goodbyes belong to the heart alone. You've just heard the story of the song that still breaks Barry Gibb, not because of its melody, but because of the memories it carries. Immortality isn't just a ballad. It's a conversation between the living and the lost. A reminder that grief doesn't fade when the music stops, and that some echoes never die, even after the applause has long gone silent. But here's the haunting truth. Barry Gibb never told the world which song makes him cry the most. He didn't need to, because the deepest emotions don't live in interviews or headlines. They live in a single trembling lyric, in a breath that falters mid-song, in the silence that follows when words run out. Maybe one day, that rumored demo from Andy will surface. Or maybe it will remain forever private, just between brothers. But what we do know is this: every time Barry steps on stage, every time he sings Immortality, he isn't just performing. He's remembering. And that memory, that ache, that unshakable love, will never fade. So what do you think is the most emotional Bee Gees song? Tell us in the comments. And if you want more untold stories behind the music, stories of heartbreak, hope, and the echoes of legends, subscribe to Retro Waves. Because some songs aren't just hits. They're lifelines. And we're here to make sure they're never forgotten.